Australians are the second highest waste producers in the world, and as a result, Sydney's 4 landfill sites are filling rapidly. Jack's Gully has already been closed to perishable rubbish, and the tip at Lucas Heights is expected to be closed within 4 to 6 years. A report released by the New South Wales Department of Planning outlines Sydney's current landfill capacity and demand. According to the report, there is 40 million tonnes available, meaning that in just 20 years, all of Sydney's landfill sites will be full. Organic waste that ends up in landfill starts decomposing, creating greenhouse gases such as methane gas and carbon dioxide. Half of this gas is methane, which has a global warming potential 25 times that of carbon dioxide.
Organic recycling is a way to take those materials that are currently wasted and go to landfill and turn them into either soil products or into energy. We've seen around the world where people have really promoted home composting to achieve levels of 30 or 40% diversion to home composting is an amazing achievement. It means that the resources go back into the local area. So some would argue that that's the most sustainable way to process our organic material.
The WMAA is calling for a national waste policy that sets specific targets for organic recycling.
Recycling all organic waste would alone remove 2/3 of waste from Australian landfill sites.
The majority of waste, particularly municipal waste or waste from households, is organic waste and does require organic processing if it's going to be diverted from landfill.
With Sydney's waste likely to keep growing, we are seeing a push to increase recovery where waste becomes a valuable resource.
It's far too valuable to be thrown in a hole in the ground. Landfill is a bit of a straw man in the sense that we'll never run out of landfills if we want them. We're certainly digging holes fast enough, but the fact is we don't want them, and that then gets engineered politically and from a planning perspective into a shortage of landfill. And the pressure politically is to make sure that there's always just enough landfill until something else comes along to make sure that we don't have a Naples problem where this stuff stacks up on the street corner. The argument surely is that we want to fill holes with materials that have no higher value than to fill holes. Well, that's the brick ends and the broken cups and the bits and pieces. Really, what we're trying to do is, because we don't live in a totalitarian state, push the economy to the point where it feels it's viable to recover these materials and then use them back into the economy.
Worm farming is one dynamic solution to use this raw organic waste, and they're popping up in office buildings around Sydney, meaning that food scraps are processed on site.
The food's eaten and the scraps produced in the building. They're composted here in the building. There's no on effect or byproduct, and the end result is a resource, the soil and the fertiliser that you can use again.
Yeah, they're having a grand old time in there.
There'd be at least 10,000 worms
In each worm farm.
It's quite amazing when you think of just how much we can reduce our rubbish if we were to use something like this. Reduce that rubbish, the volume of that rubbish and all the on effects, so like carbon emissions, methane gas that gets produced because rubbish in landfill is buried, so it doesn't decompose even if it's organic matter.
The waste sector makes up 2.5% of Australia's national emissions of greenhouse gases.
So I think some people think it's okay because it's an apple core. It's not true, because it's buried and all it does is mummify and then produce toxic gas. Apart from not producing harmful effects, we've talked about the worm wee you can use so that the juice that comes out of the worm farms can be used as fertiliser, and the soil as well. So basically the worms eat all this food and soil is produced, so it's sort of a complete unit. I think it's true that the people that from the building that are involved enjoy the process. So they're involved because they like to see what happens when they put the bucket of waste in, and then they get to see the end result and they're involved in that process. So I think that's why we get people helping us and interested.
This year's National Waste Report showed that 80% of employees would like to see more recycling in the workplace. it is likely that we will continue to see shifts in our approaches to waste. Ellie Schneider, UTS News.